people have told me, oh, like your story is so unique and it's so interesting. And I understand why they're saying that. It's kind of a dramatic story because I've gone through these experiences. I think it's just shaped me into who I am.
Hey friends, welcome to Stories Told Through You, the Flower Letters podcast.
We're Michael and Hannie Clark, and each week we sit down with our amazing community and special guests to share the real, heartfelt stories that connect us.
Grab a cozy seat.
And let's dive into the stories told through you.
We got Duke here who's keeping us company. He'll make an appearance in this episode. Anyway, this week we talked to Angela on. Angela has worked for us for the past 2 years. We thought it would be fun to, from time to time, have you get to know some of the people that work for us or who have worked for us. And Angela is a perfect person to kick this off. Many of you know her because you've interacted with her. She's run our customer service, but is now the director of our business development. And today we learned she has a fascinating and inspiring story. And so we're excited to share that with you. And we hope you enjoy the conversation. Well, thank you, Angela.
You're so welcome.
For joining us on our podcast. We're excited to get to know you a little bit more. We've known Angela for 3 years? 2 years?
Going on 3 years.
3 years. Mm-hmm. So Angela, and some of you, our listeners, know Angela as well. So Angela ran our customer service.
Well, you started as a temp though, right?
I did start as a temp here at the Flower Letters, yes.
And I was like, Angela is sharp.
Yes.
We need to hire her.
Best decision we made.
No, you're so
great.
nice.
It's awesome. Now you're director of business development.
That's right.
So awesome. Doing a great job there. Some of the fun things we got coming up. So we're excited to get to know you. This is just an open conversation. And so we can start wherever you want. Do you remember when you were born?
Let's start at the very
Just kidding.
Yes,
Where did you grow up? I think I remember you said California.
Yes, I grew up in Orange County, California, a city called Irvine. But I was born in Hawaii, in Honolulu. Yes.
Okay.
So I always like to brag about that because it's just cool.
It's cool.
And then also doubly cool to say it. But I was born in California. I was born in Hawaii, but then I grew up in California. So double cool. And then triple cool, I now live in Utah.
Well, everyone's coming here. Just follow the progress,
That's true.
So how long did you live in Hawaii?
I was just an infant there. So not very long. Yeah. My parents are immigrants from Korea.
Okay.
And so my father had gone to Brigham Young University in Hawaii. And actually they had already moved from Hawaii and lived in different places. But the time I was born, they moved back to Hawaii just in time so that I could write that on, or they could write that on my birth certificate. And I have bragging rights all through elementary school.
Nice.
So
When did they immigrate?
The story is actually not super clear. So my father immigrated when he was in college. So he went to both Brigham Young University in Hawaii and also here in Provo, Utah. And then my mother, she went to college in Korea. She went to a prestigious women's university there. And then she became a nurse. And then she worked in Germany for a while and then found her way to New York. And so her and her best friend were working as nurses in New York and living the high life. And I think around that time was, feminism was really strong. So she thought she would never get married or she vowed she wouldn't. But then she met my dad and game over.
Where did they meet?
So they actually met here in Utah.
Okay.
So when my father was going to Brigham Young University here, there wasn't a lot of Koreans here at that time. And so my uncle, who is my mother's brother, he was a student at the University of Utah. And so the students from the University of Utah and the students from Brigham Young University were going to get together. And so the Korean ones. So they got together. And then when my uncle met my dad, he put in the word to my mom, who lived in New York, and said, hey, you got to come out here and meet this guy. There's a really great guy I want you to meet, which was my dad. So my uncle was kind of a matchmaker and set those two up.
Cool. What year is this? We don't have to, you can give me a range, so you don't have to tell us your...
I'm guessing, I'm totally fine telling. So I was born in 1974.
Okay.
But so my parents must have met in late 1960s, I'm guessing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So
that's an exciting time to be
alive.
In the 60s.
Right.
So you're born in 1974. You're born in Hawaii, moved to California?
So, so my parents, they were really very interesting people, you know, and I think the older I get, the more I appreciate who they were and are, or are and were. They tried a lot of different big cities coming to America. I think, you know, America was this big dream for them. And, you know, they both grew up basically in a third world country growing up because Korea back then wasn't developed very well. Or very much, sorry, not very well. So they tried out, let's see, I was born in Hawaii, but we also lived in New York. They owned a deli in New York, which is, that's actually kind of, I don't know if typical is the right word, but there's a lot of Korean people who own delis. So they owned a deli in Queens, New York. We also lived in Seattle. But we ended up in Orange County, California, and I grew up elementary school to high school in a city called Irvine, California, which is right in Orange County by Disneyland, by Newport Beach. And so it was a really great way to grow up.
I got lost in Irvine one time.
I think you told me that. Yeah. Looking for medication.
Looking for a formula that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, formula.
For her daughter.
Yes.
Is, anyway, nice city.
Yes. It is a very, very nice. It's a great place to grow up. They have a university there, UCI. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful planned city. So.
It's nice. The gas was very expensive.
Yes. It's a very nice city. It's very expensive.
It's like $8. I think I remember.
Isn't it more right
now? Well,
now?
because I'm thinking like when we were in Anaheim, it was like maybe 4 or 5. And I get there, I was like $8. Man, wow.
Yeah.
People must be really doing pretty well here.
Our home that we grew up in, I mean, it's a 1-story home. It's nothing special at all. I think it was built in 1974, but it's over $1 million. I mean, it's a lot of money. Yeah. So it's a nice area.
So tell us about what do you remember about being a kid in Irvine? What was that like?
You know, when I look back on it, like when I look at pictures of like my class in first grade, you know, it was actually really culturally diverse, even though I didn't feel that way back then. But if I looked at the picture, I mean, we had kids from Vietnam, Korea, China, Mexico. It was quite culturally diverse. But like I said, I didn't feel like it. And I think growing up in the 80s, actually nobody even knew what being Korean was, you know, like now it's so incredible to me that Korean culture is so popular. Like it blows my mind. Back then, everyone either thought if you were Asian, they thought you were Chinese or Japanese. And even I think the reason I didn't realize how culturally diverse it was there was still, you know, in the 80s, there was more bullying, things like that, you know, that wasn't like really addressed. So I guess some of the challenges my brother and I had growing up were like our house would get toilet papered and there'd be racist things written in like toothpaste and stuff on our cars and stuff. I know it's really shocking for people to even understand that or believe that could happen, you know, but yeah, that happened like in our lifetime. And my older brother, there was a bully on our street and he would really bully my older brother and things like that. But these are not bad things in the sense of if it actually really instilled a pride in me, a good pride, you know, to be, you know, now as an adult, I'm so grateful I had those experiences, you know, to help me to hopefully be more compassionate towards other people who are from different circumstances, you know, and I'm very comfortable around people who are different or maybe, you know, minorities or the people who are more outcast. And so I think I understand their circumstances a little bit more, or hopefully I do. So anyways, so that's
what you're a kid. Like. I mean, do you remember some of those things happening? What was that? Was it traumatizing? Did your parents sit you down and kind of help you understand what was happening or?
So Korean parents are very different. And I say that with all due respect. My parents are incredible people. Like they're so courageous. I think about everything they did, you know, in their early 20s, you know, come to a totally foreign country, not speaking the language, not understanding anything. And they built up like such a successful life for themselves that like, where we landed was Irvine, California, which is Orange County, one of the nicest places like in the world, you know, but they came from nothing. Well, especially my dad, like he basically came from a third world country and, it was very poor. So you were asking, did they sit me down and talk me? No, they didn't.
Tough love approach. Huh?
They didn't. But I would say they taught me at a very young age, and I didn't realize this until later, until I was adult, like everything I basically needed to know to survive in life by the time I was a teenager. Like they taught me hard work. They taught me about like keeping my word. They taught me about follow through. They taught me about having faith. Yeah, they were incredible people. But yeah, no, that wasn't like even in their mind to talk about those things. But like I said, it was an interesting time back then because I remember one of the things my parents would always do, which I thought was interesting. They would always check their receipt after we left a grocery store. And that was just so bizarre to me. Like, what are you doing, Mom and Dad? You know, but it's because when they came over, they did actually experience things where they maybe got shortchanged or something like that, you know, and at least that's how they were interpreting it, that, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, sometimes it's interpretation, sometimes it's reality, but I don't think my parents were, paranoid or anything like that. I think that's just something that they experienced that I never had experience. Like I never checked my, my receipts. So
people are like, you want a receipt? I'm like, no.
right. No, I don't want a receipt. Right.
I had a question. I forgot. I'm having space brain today.
So where did you go after high school?
Okay. So after high school, I went to Brigham Young University. Let me back up for 1 second because this is
I remember what I wanted to ask.
Oh, yeah.
About your parents. Yeah. So they're business owners in with the deli.
Yes.
They went to Seattle, but in Irvine, are they business owners again?
No. So my dad, he is a structural engineer. So he designed homes.
Okay.
And I think how it was explained best to me was architects design, and this could be totally wrong, so I apologize to our audience if this is so wrong, that architects design like the beautiful outside of the home and things like that. And then the structural engineers design all the inside, like what makes it work, and the structure, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I grew up around blueprints like all the time, and we used to draw on the backs of the blueprints with crayon and everything like that. So my dad was a structural engineer. My mom, like I said, she was a nurse, but then when she had children, she chose to be a full-time stay-at-home mom.
Back up in high school.
Yes. So at high school, so I went to Irvine High School. I had a great time there. Once again, very culturally diverse, and it was fun to grow up in that environment. One of the major things in my life that happened at that time was, and this will explain why I think my parents taught me everything I needed to know by the time I was a teenager, was my parents were actually, and I'm sharing this with you because this has basically shaped the entire rest of my life. And I'm so sorry. I'm already getting a little emotional here, but my parents were in a car accident when I was 15. So they were hit by a drunk driver on their way to our church has temples. And so the temple they were going to was the Los Angeles temple for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So they were on their way to worship at the temple, and they were hit by a drunk driver very early in the morning. And because of that accident, my father ended up passing away. And then my mother, she was in a condition for the remainder of her life. She survived the accident, but she was bedridden for the rest of her life. And then she couldn't speak, and she couldn't eat, and she couldn't move. So she was either in a bed or she was in a wheelchair. And she remained in that condition for 18 years of her life. Yeah. So the remaining 18 years of her life, she was in that condition. Yeah. So that was, that has shaped who I am and has really made a huge impact on the rest of my life. So
yeah, that's got to be like, that's complete life change at 15.
Right.
So you had an older brother.
Yeah. My older brother, he was 17 at that time. And then I had a younger brother who was 7. So
did the majority of your parents' care depend on you guys, or did you?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. So what ended up happening was, for a little while there, everything's in flux, and we had a lot of members from our church step in and help us, which was such a huge blessing. We were bounced around to different living situations. Ultimately, I lived with my best friend from high school. So her name's Virginia, and she lived in a situation where she had also lost her father. So she lived with a single mom, Mrs. Kim. So it was Mrs. Kim and Virginia and I and Dorothy, her sister. So I lived with them for the remainder of high school. My older brother was close to graduating high school, so he went off to Brigham Young University. And then my younger brother, who was 7, he had it the hardest because he moved to Chicago to live with my uncle. And my uncle and his family were very, very generous to do that. So they took him in for about a year. And then there were some church members in Orange County who, through one of our church's agencies, learned about our family situation. And so this family was interested in adoption. And so what ended up happening was my younger brother went to live with this family in Orange County, California, Rob and Laura Lynn Wood. Johnny came and lived with them for maybe, I think, just about a year, maybe a year and a half. And they're wonderful, wonderful people. They had a little boy that was around Johnny's age. But long story short, when I would come to visit, they actually saw that when Johnny and I would say goodbye, they actually felt like they were keeping our family separated by them having been guardians over Johnny. So when they realized that, they approached me about how I would feel about taking guardianship over Johnny, you know. So by the time that conversation happened, fast forward a few years, like I said, I was 15 when the accident happened. By the time I took guardianship over Johnny, or stewardship, or whatever you would call it, I was 19 years old, and I was already in my sophomore year at BYU. So Johnny came from California to live with me at BYU.
Wow.
And by that time, he was 11 years old. So he came and lived with me my sophomore year till I graduated college.
So you raised your brother?
I would say halfway, like his teen years. Yeah. And I don't know if I raised, I don't know. You have to ask him.
It's the most memorable. I don't remember anything
Before that.
Yeah. But that's also why I say my parents taught me everything that I needed to know by the time I was a teenager, by the time I was 15, really. And it's kind of funny as I say that, because you know how parents always say, like, oh, my teenager thinks they know everything, right?
But
my parents,
I did.
Yeah. In a way, my parents, I mean, they did teach me like the basics that I needed to know. Like I said, faith in God, working hard, being a person of my word, hard work ethic, the importance of education. So they instilled that in me. And even though they were extremely strict, as Korean parents are, I mean, I would say they were even more strict than the average Korean parent. And then on top of that, our faith. So there was a lot of strictness going on there.
Right.
But like I said, it's what I needed, and like when you have the foundational basics, then you can manage the other things, and I'm not saying I was a complete mess for a lot of my life, like meaning like I was like a leaf blown in the wind going this way, that way. I didn't know to like do taxes. I didn't know to like change the oil in my car. But those things are not like monumental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're anchored in your faith, like that's what's the most important thing, because that'll help you decide, make good decisions, good moral decisions, right? And then you also know who to turn to when things are hard. You're not going to turn to the world with all their ideas, I mean, there's a million philosophies out there, right? But like you're going to turn to the source of what's good, So
I think that's so amazing, though, because it is having a faithful background or that foundation. It just solves so many things.
It does, and it prevents many things too. In some ways, I live the same life I lived when I was a teenager. And so I was that being said, I was a really like good kid. Okay.
We assume.
We can tell.
Thanks.
I can see this is the 80s.
But I was
Wild
fun
Angela.
too. I was a cheerleader.
Did you have the cool 80s hair?
Okay. If later on Peter, our camera guy, can like put in a picture. I mean, I have a great senior picture.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
my hair is several inches high. My bangs are several inches high. And I look older in that picture than I probably look now. I look like a 50-year-old businesswoman in that picture. I had this like blazer with shoulder pads and everything. Anyways,
that's awesome.
I had older sisters that grew up in that, and they were like, and it was as high as you could get. That was the thing.
Yes, Aquanet. That was like our hairspray of choice. Yeah.
Remember the peg legs and the penny loafers,
Stonewash,
and then the gerbodes.
Yes. So
those gerbode jeans. So you were a cheerleader?
I was, yeah. That's like,
Awesome.
I'm so proud of that. Like even to this day, I'm strangely
So
proud of
that's
that.
where the dance moves came from.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Well, you know what? I do have to say this too is like, like I said, my parents taught me to work hard. So they didn't really believe in buying me dance lessons. So all those dance moves were hard earned. It's in my backyard, like dancing in front of the mirror, trying to get those moves right and then auditioning. And I think that's why I was proud because like it wasn't like I had any dance classes or anything, So my claim to fame, like back in high school.
If we just examine your faith a little bit, because it's such a critical component of, I think, just looking at people that I know, success.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily successful monetarily but just navigating life as a good human. Because having that foundational, support. So when these things happened,
Yes.
you knew where to look. Your parents had taught you. What was that like? Was that difficult, or was it kind of at that point second nature to know where to look? Or did you have to go through a process to like find God, or did you know He was already there, or was it a process for you?
Well, I'll tell you what happened when I first heard of the accident. So it was December 1st, 1990. I'll always remember that date. It's a very easy date to remember. It was a Saturday morning, and my parents went early to worship in the temple.
Mhm.
So they probably left the house, I don't know, 6, maybe 5:30 a.m. So I got woken up, a little bit later in the morning, and it was my older brother bursting into my room. So he said, "Angela, wake up." He's like, "Mom and Dad were in a car accident. I'm not kidding." So that's the message that I got. What I did instinctively, because I'd been taught by my parents, is instinctively I dropped to my knees and I prayed.
Mm.
So that was something that was just ingrained in me, And so I was so grateful for that. When I came out of the room, my older brother had somehow we got in contact with one of the members of our church. And we have something in our church where we have stewardship over one or two other people in our congregation so that we watch out for them.
Right.
One of the ladies who had stewardship over my mother, she was the one who came and picked us up to drive us to the hospital. Her name is Erna Wong. She was just the perfect person to come pick us up because she is a doctor of 9 children. Yeah.
Wow. 9 kids?
9 children. Yeah. She's an incredible woman. Anyway, so she's the one who came and picked us up, and she was very well versed. I'm sure the hospital that we went to, she knew all the ins and outs. She knew what was going on, And so she's a very special person in our lives. And she actually, when my mom did eventually pass away 18 years later, after being bedridden for 18 years, this good woman, she helped prepare my mom for burial. They set a foundation for my faith, but yes, definitely it was a process. Yeah, because it was more foundational than obviously a capstone. There's not a capstone yet. And it has been hard. It has been very, very hard. And I would say my 20s were incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And then my 30s were hard, but then you start learning things, figuring things out, healing, and you're healing all along the way, as long as you keep returning back and back to, faith.
Right.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. For decades, I suffered from depression and anxiety. A lot of my 20s and 30s, I was probably clinically depressed, but I was quite depressed and quite anxious. But, I had a good outward face, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I don't know if anyone even knew how much, because my personality is generally like cheerful and outgoing, but I was really, really struggling.
Yeah. Well, you're in good company.
Oh, yes. Right.
Or would depression, anxiety it's something.
Well, and it's amazing how many really successful people that you would never, are depressed, anxious, and they just get on with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
For better or for worse. But you know what I mean? Because you're going to have to deal with it sometime.
Right. Yeah.
I think that it happens to a lot more people than we know, because it's not like a broken arm. You know what I mean? You can't see somebody struggling with it. It's something that's usually silent.
Maybe like a broken heart, broken mind in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult for people who haven't either experienced or had someone close to them experience to understand.
It is.
Because you can't see it. And I've talked to many people that say, I just can't understand why you can't just be happy.
Sure.
And it's like, oh boy, I wish.
Where do we start?
Hey, if it was just that easy, that'd be pretty great.
I do have to say I'm kind of guilty of that.
Well, so am I.
I think the irony is I've been through it, you know, and maybe that's why I'm a little bit guilty of it is I think I've been through it and I've found some things that have worked, you know?
Yeah.
And so because of that, like, I want to cram all that information, especially to people I love down their throats, i.e. my brothers.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm totally like that with my two brothers. And I mean, we were all struggling, you know, and so I want to fix things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to control things, especially when I see them hurting. I want to help them with some of the things that I learned, but like, you have to do it in the right way. And in some ways I haven't done it in the right way. So
I'm totally guilty of the same thing.
Yeah.
8 sisters and one brother, and it's 7 sisters and one brother. And I've done that many times.
Yes.
Where I'm like, oh, I should have. They weren't ready. Or,
yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes. Like they just want you to listen, you know?
Right. And love and like, but it's hard.
Well, you guys try to solve people's problems too?
Yes.
I thought it was just guys.
Oh, no. In fact, I thought, I should start a podcast called Bossy Older Sister. Because I'm like,
I'd listen.
My older brothers don't want to hear me, but I'm sure other people want to hear me, you know? And it's funny because I have been asked to speak about my, you know, family experience and at certain times. And, you know, I was like, see, people are paying to hear my advice. And I tell that to my brothers. I'm like, you get it for free. They're like, no.
When you feel that desire because you love someone so much, like you want to fix.
Yes.
So the ingrained man thing, as I understand it, is fix.
Yes.
All right. Hey, I can fix this. It's like, I got a problem. Someone's got a problem.
Right. Solution. Right.
I know what to do.
Right.
Whereas like usually, it's just listen and let them talk and, you know, to work through things. And, you know, you learn that the hard way.
Right.
A lot of times, but I think hopefully in the end, people know you just want them to be fixed.
Yeah. Well, it's, I think what it is like you see people in pain, right? And so that's painful for you, right? So I didn't mention this, but I also served a mission for my church, similar to Michael. So I went to Seattle, Washington. So I went on my mission when I was 21 years old. I knew like the gravity and the importance of what I was doing, talking to people about faith, and like the people there were incredibly nice. I mean, if you can imagine going door to door, knocking and talking about religion with people, like people don't want to talk about religion and politics, but people were incredibly nice. But why am I bringing this up? Because I remember as a missionary, like I was overwhelmed thinking like, we've got to fix people's problems. Like, I mean, people were opening their hearts to us and we were like so young, 21 years old. And they were telling us about like their marriage problems, like things like I had no idea about.
Right.
But the really awesome thing is I remember what they trained us. We go to this thing called the Missionary Training Center. And what they taught us was that we're actually not there to solve people's problems. You know, like we're there to help people to solve their own problems by turning to God.
Right.
That's what it was. And so that actually made my job super easy, you know? So when I would listen and hear these problems and stories and everything, I mean, it was just listening with an open heart and just asking them like, well, what do you think you can do? You know? And like people have the answers deep inside them. It just maybe asking the right questions so that gets brought out, you know? And I forget that and I leapfrog and I just want to solve it for them. But then that robs them of the opportunity to find that answer out for themselves. And it's way more impactful, obviously, if they figure it out for themselves, you know? So
it's like a deeper understanding when you're able to see things for yourself. But sometimes when you're in that state of mind, it's like impossible. Like you can't see like past the dark.
Yeah.
It's like there's only dark and there's only ever going to be dark. But it's, you know, sometimes I think just talking through some things, you can maybe see a little glimmer or maybe giving people just say, hey, you see that there's a little pinprick of light there. Just go for that one.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like you two have been through similar experiences where it is just so like dark and you feel like there's no hope, or you feel like it's hopeless, you know. Something that I did want to mention in this podcast, and this is like such a major thing. For decades, I was pretty depressed and anxious, but one of the big things that helped me through is journaling, is journal writing. I have so many journals. I've kept a journal since I was 6th grade, probably younger. I think like Hannie, I write in it almost pretty much every day. Yeah. So have a lot of journals, and that really helped, you know, like it helps me process my thoughts. It helps put all this jumbled big feelings, crazy thoughts on paper. Sometimes I have a hard time expressing verbally what I'm going through, but when I write it down, that helps me a lot.
For me, journaling is like it allows me to like process it all, but then also decide how I'm going to feel about it. Do you know what I mean? Because that was one thing, especially younger, just being like, okay, all this stuff is happening. Now, how do I want to deal with it? What kind of a person do I want to be?
Yeah.
In spite of this or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so like writing it down allowed me to kind of like tailor my thoughts to be the kind of person that I wanted to be, rather than just being a victim of my circumstances.
Yes.
Really take control.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, speaking of that, because once again, it's the flower letters, and we talk about narratives, right? And like our story. So for a very long time, I definitely played the victim. Like I like this victim mentality. Like I really thought, it's kind of interesting, like on my journey to discover, faith and who I was and my relationship, with deity it was confusing, as it's confusing with a lot of people, right? It's like, okay, like I have faith, but then this really terrible, awful thing happened and I don't know how to deal with it. And I don't know how this even fits together. For a long time, I did play the victim, and there's no hope when you play the victim, because when you play the victim, you're the victim. You know what I mean? There's not hope. Yeah, your power is gone. You're actually giving your power away. And something that I see happening in our society, which is unfortunate, is we give a lot of praise. I don't know. We kind of give a lot of attention to victim mentality. And I don't think that's helpful. I don't think it's healthy. I think it's important to hear their stories 100%. Yeah. And that's part of the healing process. But to allow people to stay in that by encouraging that type of behavior, it can keep them in that place for so long. And, coming out of that space, when I realized that I didn't want to be that, I didn't want to be the victim, and it's just like I said, it's hopeless. I think when people realize how much power and control and, well, maybe not control, but power and responsibility they have over their lives, and also like how the choices we make brings about the results in our lives, even realizing when that isn't the situation and some bad things happen to us, or there's bad players and, things like that happen, but that you can still take not ownership, but responsibility for what happened, and to turn that into something good and beautiful and positive and helpful, know? And so that's something that I really work to strive to do, is to not stay in that space, And you can go into that, or I can go into that space really fast, because like our brains are wired certain ways. Yeah. But even with that, like, as science is coming out, like I'm learning more and more, that's malleable. And you can actually retrain your brain, like how to think, And so like I do a lot of exercises and journal writing to help me with that. Some of the things I did was like positive affirmations, writing down positive things like mom and dad love you, I am of worth. Things like that, like writing that over and over and over again. So I'm reconnecting, rewiring my brain so that instead of when something hard happens, instead of immediately thinking the worst, spiraling it down this way, instead I've trained my brain so that when something bad happens, it's talking myself, It's like being a coach or like a little angel on your shoulder, giving you like, hey, okay, this happened. Like it didn't feel good. Okay, like what are some ways to see this situation? Okay, now what are some positive ways that we can turn this around, or something like that? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's so difficult, I think, doing that habit, because it can become habitual to be the victim.
It can,
because it's addicting.
It is.
It's sort of like you have this rush of like, I'm the victim, and there's sort of like and with society rewarding that,
that's it. We're rewarding it.
It's
sort of like,
you feel almost to the point of where if you're not playing the victim and looking for justice instead of mercy, you're punished. Society will punish you because like you should be seeking justice
Right.
from this person who's wronged you.
Right.
Or,
Studying
you
mercy
know,
and forgiveness.
right. Instead of
when
looking
that's
in.
the best medicine for you is forgiveness and mercy.
But the hardest thing is extending the mercy to ourselves.
That's true. That is true. That is so true. That is so true.
So I have a friend who actually reminds me a lot of you, and she struggled with some similar things, and she had a term for that vortex or that spiraling. She called it the vortex of pain. And whenever she was standing on the precipice, it was like, I'm standing on the precipice of the vortex of pain. What do I do now? And she kind of like had to label it so that she do to avoid the ledge.
Yes. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
It's a good visual of like, okay, do I want to go down this spiral?
Right.
Do I want to, end up having to climb my way back out of that again? Or is there something I can do to like step back? And I've found in my experience that is always mercy towards yourself. Like that little angel on your shoulder, being your best friend.
Yes.
And being kind to yourself, talking to yourself the way you would to your best friend who is going through something similar. And it's so hard. It's so hard to do, but it's like it is a learned behavior if you're not used to doing that, and it takes effort, but it's so worth it.
Yes.
Because what I found in my life is the more merciful I am to myself, the more merciful I am to everyone around me. My relationships with my kids are so much better, and my husband and my siblings, like just being kinder to myself, I'm able to be kinder to everyone around me. And it kind of puts a new meaning to, when the Lord says, love your neighbor as yourself, you got to love yourself first.
Right.
Else, how do you know how to really do that? And so that's great advice.
It is
One of the things that I did, we talked about this right before, but everybody's messed up.
Accept it now.
They're all messed up, even if they may put on a face saying they're the best.
Well, I have a question for you, Angela. This is going to be a weird question, but because of your experience with depression and anxiety, did you feel when like the pandemic hit and everybody was kind of like forced into this space, did you kind of feel like, hey, I know how to get through this? Did you? I mean, that's how I felt.
Yes, I did.
Like, I was
actually.
like, oh, okay, I've been going through this for forever.
Yes.
I know how to like muscle my way through this. Yeah.
Yes.
And then everyone around you, you're like, okay. And then you want to be the big sister.
Yeah.
Go, this is what you do.
Right. Yeah. No, I absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, something interesting happened in 2020. I think it was 2020. So at Brigham Young University, they have this amazing conference called Women's Conference. And I think it's the largest faith event conference for women of faith in the world. So yeah, they have tens of thousands of attendees.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
amazing. It's wonderful.
It's hard to go because it's so crowded.
Really?
For me, who doesn't like big crowds, I'm like,
so when guys show up, you're like, what are you doing here? That ticket should have been for someone.
During the pandemic, so they were trying to figure out how to do women's conference. I don't even know. Well, now I know how it happened, but someone reached out to me and they asked me, oh, would you like to speak at women's conference?
Oh,
and
cool.
like, I was like, wow, like, yes, that sounds awesome. Like, thank you for this opportunity, But it was during the pandemic, so it had to be recorded. I wrote a talk and then they recorded it at a studio. And then it was a totally different experience because usually it's on BYU campus. There's like I said, tens of thousands of women there. So it was totally different during 2020. But the very subject that they asked me to speak on is navigating depression and anxiety. Mm. And so I'm not a PhD. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, I'm not any of those things. I'm just someone who's been like Hannie and you, Mike, in the trenches, right? Like a everyday person who's dealt with it and how they were able to manage it. And I'm talking, like I said, decades worth of depression and anxiety, right? So they had me speak on that. And I think it was really a miracle, because, and I don't know if it was because of my name, Angela On, it both starts with AA. But when they sent out the video link or something like that, I'm the first one, and just by default, like usually choose the first speaker, right? So but I think that was a message that, that the Lord wanted people to hear, because people were hurting at that time. It was years and years of hard-earned wisdom, that I had the opportunity to share.
And do you feel like, though, that being able to finally share your story and see it helping other people has healed you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Knowing that there was a purpose for it all?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's a really good point, Hannie. Yes, absolutely.
So when's the book come out?
Actually, well, this is so funny. They took compilation of the talks that were given at women's conference.
Oh, cool.
And they did produce a book,
Nice.
for Deseret Books. So.
Very cool. Well, you should totally write your own book.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know how much people want to hear that, but
I think people need it. It's, I think it's stories like this. This is why we do the podcast. I'm sure there's people listening
yeah.
who are being healed.
Yeah.
I think because they're seeing someone is like, oh, someone else feels that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Or, wow, I'm in the middle of this dark thing, but there's light, there could be hope. And so this is like, for some people, hopefully it's a little just pinprick of light.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's not a therapist that brings it. It's not a doctor or someone, it's usually someone who's gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I found with depression
Yeah.
and anxiety.
I
It's
highly recommend therapy. It's awesome.
yeah.
Peter's grandma is my therapist, and she's amazing.
Peter, if you guys
Just
didn't
a
know,
plug.
Peter's he's our editor.
I'm all for it. It's hard and it takes a lot of courage to do it, but like my progress expedited
Yeah.
with therapy.
I also think in our culture, in our church, I think there's a lot more openness. People are much more willing to share. Like me, I'm an open book. I'll tell people I've got depression all day. I wasn't always that way,
Mm-hmm.
but being able to share that, I think you can see when you're sharing it, people are like, oh, some people are like, this guy's weird, but they're fine.
Yeah.
That's true. You do take the risk of that, but like Mike's mom has been a huge blessing in my life because she didn't shy away from talking about it, and because of who she is and the wonderful person that she is and the successful person she is, I was like, okay, this is something, this is one, it's real, and two, it is good to talk about it because there are other people struggling, and so it takes a lot of courage to talk about it. And yeah, you do risk the chance of some people misunderstanding and thinking something different, but gosh, like the lifeline, you know what I mean, that people are desperately searching for. There's been so many times talking about my story, and then you find that little person, I don't want to say little person, but they're usually quite a bit younger than me at the beginning of their journey. And they're like, I thought it was just me. I thought that I didn't know what was going on or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like giving them the chance to not feel alone. And I think that a lot of times we're given these struggles because God wants us to be the one that says, hey, you're not alone. And yeah, it's hard, but there is a light. And
Yeah.
you've proven that there is hope at the end by continuing to muscle through and make it a blessing, right? So Angela,
Yes.
college.
Oh, yeah.
What did you study in college?
I studied marketing, but I'll have to tell you why I studied marketing. The reason is, like Hannie, when I was a kid, if you asked me, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Like instant answer was, I wanted to be an artist and a writer. I was completely confident in that. When my parents' accident happened, blew my world apart, right? So after that, I lived in fear. I lived in complete fear. And so the constant conversation in my head is, I've got to get a job that makes me money. I got to get a job that makes me money. I got to be able to support my family. So that was constantly playing in my head. So then if you look at my track record in college, it was zigzag, nursing, and then, maybe law school, or maybe this, or maybe that, trying to figure it out because, everyone knows artists and writers don't make money. Yeah, right.
You just have to be unconventional.
Yes, you do. And I think that's the genius of what you guys do is you found a way to make writing and art so marketable, right?
Well,
yeah.
You also have to have a great business partner.
Well, yes.
That knows
I
the
know.
business. Well, you don't have to, but it helps.
Oh
a
no,
lot.
it absolutely. I mean, in my study of business, that's what I learned. At the core, you need a product, and then you need someone to sell the product. That's what you need, and maybe someone to produce someone to produce the product, and then someone to sell the product, right?
Yeah, especially now these days, it's just if there's artists and writers out there, it's going to be unconventional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old way of getting published or getting your art out, it's going away because we have so many different mediums
Mm-hmm.
of getting it out there and different creative ways to do it. So with what we're doing with the flower letters, but I think it does take a little bit of people going the conventional route. I'm kind of well, the odds are not very good.
Right.
But when you choose something that's just off the wall, your odds are probably just as good, if not better.
Yeah, right.
if you think about it.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm going to try to get my book published, and you're 30 years down the road. It's like, well, why didn't you just do your own unconventional thing?
Right.
And make some money along the way for the next 30 years instead of trying to keep getting published.
There is a time for everything in a season. So
You're right.
It's a progress, because I know, like, didn't you try to get published? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We went that route.
So I chose marketing because I thought it was like a good in between that uses writing and then also uses art, So I was like, marketing, that's a perfect answer. But to be quite honest, like, I didn't love marketing. I didn't love it. I really didn't love it. And now looking back, like, I should have just chosen writing or art, or it's a combination of both, because those are the things that I really love, I've been really blessed because, like I said, I've had opportunities to give these talks at, the women's conference. They actually asked me to speak twice. And so that takes a lot of writing,
Right.
and poring over what you're going to say and things like that. And so I've just been given a lot of opportunities to write. And so I'm super grateful for that. It might not be art, but maybe it's the creative aspect that I like. I feel very blessed. Like, I feel like in a lot of things that I've done, I've been able to use those, 2 skills. But another skill that I didn't realize, or that I had, that I actually like, and I didn't know that I liked it, was actually when I started working at the Flower Letters, because I started as a temp, and, as a temp, I was stuffing the letters and everything. And I actually had another job lined up, because you're a temp because it's a temporary job, right? So I had a job lined up starting in January, and I started that job, and I was 2 weeks into that job, right? And then Michael called me, and then he's like, "Hey, we'd like you to work for the Flower Letters." And I'm like, I just started a job and I'm 2 weeks into it. Anyways, and then, he talked with me, and if you know anything about me, it is, I hate letting people down. Like, I hate it. It's like the worst thing in the world for me, right? So for me to actually go to those people I was employed by and to tell them, like, I'm so sorry, I got a better offer. And like, normally my normal go-to is, nope, I'm just going to take the first thing, and I will just, even though if I'm suffering, I'll suffer it because I told them that I would take that offer, right? So long story short, I had to put, I had to be a big girl and approach them and tell them, that what happened, and that I got this really great opportunity, and I really felt bad, and I apologized profusely, got them gift cards, and just because everything, because I know that's a sacrifice that they made, and they were believing in me. Anyway, so that's how I ended up at the Flower Letters.
And we are so glad.
Yes. Thank you for doing that. Sorry I didn't get to you sooner.
It has been a huge, huge, huge blessing. But I'll tell you, one of the talents I discovered, or something that I liked that I didn't realize I liked. I became customer service manager here, right? So customer service manager, you're managing a small team. So I'd never been a manager before. And then the team and my job was to help our customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that to me sounded like kind of the worst job ever. Right? Like, people are constantly like talking to you about their problems and like why things aren't working and what are you going to do to fix it. And I was like, oh no, this sounds terrible. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. It actually turned out so awesome. I did not realize that I actually, remember, I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, like, customer service, you're helping people resolve their problems and concerns,
Yeah.
And that was very rewarding for me, And granted, like, our customers are very kind. Even if they're upset, they're super kind about it. You know what I mean? And they're willing to forgive. And as long as you can, like, make good on whatever it is, like, they're satisfied and happy,
Yeah.
So it's been awesome to just realize that that's something that I didn't know that I like to do, but that I like to do, So it worked really well, I was in that position for about a year this past year. And yeah, 2 of you invited me to try out business development. But that's also something that I didn't know that I like to do, but I do. And it's relationship building is what it is, right?
Yeah.
At the core, it's relationship building. So
Yeah.
that's fun.
So I'll just say you're fantastic
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank
customer
you.
service,
You're so
Really
kind.
great.
which is why we thought you'd be great in business development,
Oh, thank you.
because it's a role that we'd always needed, and your ability to understand what the customer needs, I think is what we really, it's been super helpful since you stepped into that role, because everything we're doing, we can't tell what we're doing yet.
I know it's so exciting. It is so exciting, right?
It's like, I just told Hannie the other day, I'm like, so glad Angela is spearheading this, because
Totally.
I couldn't do it.
Oh,
I
you're
couldn't
so
do it
nice.
the way that we need to do it, and you're executing so well.
Yeah, well, in the relationship building, it's definitely one of your talents. I'm
Yeah.
always blown away. I'm like, how did she? Wow, that's so awesome. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Well, this also, I think our philosophy on customers is to always do right
Yeah.
Mhm.
by them. And, because what we do, our mission is joy, relief, connection. And, when a customer is upset, I learned to just make sure that you have what you need to solve their problem. I hope you always felt that, and that you weren't too constrained by policies.
Oh,
and,
not at all. No. And that's what's, yeah.
And so sometimes you come and you told me one time, it was like, I remember one time specifically, I got a little bit rebuked by God, where you came and you said, I did this for this customer. And then I was like, I think I remember telling you, I was like, yeah, I don't think we should do that anymore. And then afterwards I was like, that was the wrong thing to say. And I remember, I think I texted you and apologized
You
because
did, and it was totally fine. Like,
because I
that
was like,
fine.
I think she did exactly what she needed to do. It was, and you did the perfect thing. You should always feel free to resolve the problem
yeah.
the
And
way that you see fit.
I do feel that way with the flower letters. I definitely feel like, yeah, this is a great company to work for. You guys give us a lot of, not responsible, what do you call it? Ownership, freedom. You don't micromanage. You just let us do. You just, give us the projects and let us figure it out. And I love that.
A lot of that's because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's perfect.
No,
Like,
there's
I actually
deliberate
thrive on that.
No, I know what I'm doing.
And weren't we just talking about how nobody knows what they're doing? Just
Right.
kidding.
No, I learned early. I've learned that when you have capable people and people that are willing to work with you and for you, when you give them, help them see their genius, their capabilities, you enhance their ability, you help them see what they can do, you open up their creativity, and you get a much better result versus me saying, do this,
Right.
do it that way, be this way. And, you just have to step back and let people, and some people don't like that.
I know. I've actually learned that, because I'm very much the person, like, I thrive on, like, just do what you want. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm self-motivated,
Right.
that Korean upbringing. And it inspires me, you know what I
Right.
mean, when I have that freedom. But I understand, maybe, I don't know if it's a developmental thing or what it is, but like it can be hard for some people. And I understand that too. Like they need more guidance,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
And it might be a progress. I don't know.
It is a process, I think, for people, but it's
I think it's also though, and you said this as well. You don't like to let people down, and so when somebody, for me, it's
Yes.
hard when somebody's over me and they're like, I'm like, I just want you. I want to do what you want me to do. So
Yes.
what do you want me to do? And so sometimes I feel like a little bit like I'm not sure how to move forward. But when it's my thing, I'm like, there's no limits.
Right.
I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Right.
You know what I mean?
but for leaders, it's also challenging because sometimes I see people struggling,
Yeah.
but I have to remember the struggle is part of the process.
Mhm.
And if I were to step in and just solve the problem, the result wouldn't be as good.
That's true.
And the result isn't in my mind, the result's not the thing that got done. The result is the person.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you see the ability for the person to grow and to develop, because when the next thing comes,
Yeah.
they're going to be that much more capable. So like, it's hard as a leader to lead that way because we're taught in our society, we see, and there's a whole book about this. My dad wrote it with my two siblings, but it's a
I'm
power.
starting to read it.
It's a power over versus power through, where you let people take the reins of problems and solve them, even if they struggle.
Right.
So I hope I didn't let you struggle too much.
Oh no! I thrive on it. Like I actually thrive at it. I mean, like, to be honest, like I'm struggling right now because this is a new thing, business development, and
Well, you're doing awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
well, I'm just so used to customer service, and a part of me still like goes and tries to help them, and like I have to be careful because of what you just said. Like I was in a managerial position. And so like I still get asked questions from my team or other people and things like that. And it's really the new manager's responsibility now. And like, if I step in too much, I'm robbing her of that opportunity to grow. And because I'm a problem solver, it's very easy for me to step into that role again,
So after you graduated from college, What was your first job?
What was my first job? Okay, so I worked in public relations in the Bay Area
Okay.
during the
.com.
the .com, but it was right when it burst.
Oh.
I came and pricked it with a bubble. Just kidding. I pricked a bubble.
It was all you.
Yeah. So my first job was at a public relations firm, and I was living out there in the Palo Alto area.
Okay.
So it was fun. There was a lot of, young 20-year-olds like trying to figure out life. And so, yeah, it was really fun. But actually, the original reason I went out there was because I interviewed at this company. You guys know Hello Kitty.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Addie loves Hello Kitty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I really loved Hello Kitty. So Sanrio, which is the parent company, they have a San Francisco office. So I actually went out there for an interview, and I interviewed with them. And things didn't work out, but I ended up staying in that area. What led me out there was after college, I just thought, what do I like? I like Hello Kitty. Okay, let me try to see if I can get a job at Hello Kitty, Sanrio.
Good as place as any to start. You know what I mean?
They actually had a marketing coordinator position or something available at that time, and they were super nice and awesome.
How long did you do PR?
Oh, not very long. In fact, it wasn't like my major or anything like that. I majored in marketing in general, more advertising emphasis. So I just held that job for I think it was only actually a few months. And the reason for that was, that leaf blown in the wind.
Yeah.
I was so lost after college. I was very lost. I'm just trying to figure it out, trying to get like stable footing underground. I'd made this move to one of the most expensive cities in America. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't know what I was doing.
Was your brother with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
At that time, he was... Yeah, I left him a little early, meaning he was probably 17. He was probably in his senior year of high school at that time. So I left, and then he lived with some roommates.
Your relationship with your brother, are you guys really close because of that?
My relationship with both of my brothers, I'm close to both of them. I would say in a way they're my best friends, but also in the same vein, like we've had really tumultuous times, and I don't know what that average relationship with siblings are, but yeah, like I have much more vested interest in my younger brother for sure than most people do, and that's probably what drives them crazy.
Stop trying to be my mom.
Yeah, and even
so
if you
listen, bro, I was your mom for a while.
But like even with that, like if I even literally was his mom, like he's an adult,
Right.
Yeah. Well, I bet the role that you assumed, not assumed, but out of necessity, you probably carry the responsibility a lot more than you probably need to sometimes. You know what I mean? It was necessary, of course, in that time of your life. But I know the role that I've played in my family is like, I absorb everybody's problems. And I feel like, you want to fix everything. But then at the same time, you're like, you bring it all with you, and then you carry it into your own life, and it just disrupts everything there. And so learning how to let go of that is really.
It is. Once again, I'm navigating a strange part of my life right now where I'm living completely alone, and I've never done that before. I've always had fantastic roommates. So I'm single and I've never been married. And so I live by myself now. I mean, people might be curious. So what'd you do? Like, how'd you get out of that depression and anxiety for decades and decades and decades? And I'd be really interested to know what has helped you. So in fact, what has helped you?
Well, it's Peter's grandma has been amazing. That's been a huge, huge thing. I just like getting me to face it all. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I've done the muscle your way through it for my whole life of just like, there's no problem here. I wasn't affected, and it turns out that like a lot of my health problems, physical health problems, were because I wasn't facing that stuff. Yes. And the amazing thing is the more that I faced it, the more those physical problems have calmed down.
Yes. Yes, I do know.
And that was like a revelation to me. But also, like I'm a big supporter of everything you can do within your life, health, like your diet, your exercise, sleep is huge. I'm still working on that one. But, making sure that those things are in place as much as you can have control over them. And then you have to set strong and firm boundaries, especially when there are toxic relationships that have caused a lot of the trauma and the pain in your life. That's really difficult because when you set those boundaries, you lose relationships. Yeah. And not when you are a parent, your children lose those relationships as well.
Oh, right.
So you mourn for them and you feel the guilt, but like the evidence is before me that my life is getting more peaceful and it's more calm, and I'm able to, function on a daily basis in a way that I haven't been able to for 20 years, if not longer. But, and then I'm also a huge supporter of if you need a medication, take the medication. Like Jordan Peterson has this great book that I read about 10 years ago where he's like, take the dang pills. It's like one of his things. If you got to take it, take it. I believe in that. I'm all for like as natural as you possibly can because I'm really sensitive to medications. But when you find something that's working for you, it's not a crutch. You just need it. So do it, you know, and it benefit from it, you know?
Yeah, I'm really glad we found a good therapist, right? Because it took a while.
It took me, I met Peter's grandma and I knew that she was meant to be my therapist almost the moment that I met her. It took me 5 years to be like, okay, I want you to be my therapist,
Right.
you know? And, you know, I wasn't ready yet. And I don't think I would have been ready to like face the things that I needed to face until that time anyway. So, you know, like I said, there's seasons for things. And I think trusting the process, trusting yourself, and like, it's like Peter's grandma says this great thing of like wind through the trees, water over rocks. Like, you know, life, it is like that. And you're not going to be ready until you're ready. And so just trust yourself to get to that place and be kind to yourself. And so those are some of the things that have helped me. And I'm still working through it. Like, Mike and I, just this last weekend, it was like, okay, we're not done yet. You know what I mean?
Sure. Right.
And I don't know if I ever will be.
Right.
I think when you go through things like that, where your family especially is concerned and there's a breaking of some kind, I don't know that you ever recover from that. But you can move forward and create something beautiful in the future, you know? And a lot of that past and what you learn from it informs that future. And it's, you know, choosing, okay, how do I want this to inform that future? Do I want to be the catalyst to bring a brighter future to me and everyone that comes after me? Or do I want to keep on falling into the same patterns that were so painful in the first place?
Yeah, it's the keep moving forward.
Yeah,
It's kind of our family's motto. You just got to keep one foot in front of the other. Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. Because it's like, well, I don't want to get out of bed,
I know.
but I need to. So I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other and move.
And celebrate the victory. I got out of bed.
Right.
That was my best today. I got
Brush
out of
my
bed.
teeth.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I don't know if you experienced, there were times when like getting ready was exhausting.
Oh yeah.
It was like, but you have to keep moving forward. And that's a victory. Angela, what have you done? Yeah, I think that this is a good part of the conversation.
Okay. So I loved everything that you said because that's exactly what I did.
Did you? Okay, good.
So maybe out of the mouth of two witnesses, right? Shall the truth be established, right? So I'm very much like, I think a lot of things can be helped with very basic foundational things that people don't even realize. Like things like what we put into our bodies, what we eat, exercise, sleep. I mean, those are so basic. And if you think about it and you think about like how moms treat their babies, like, you know, good moms, like they're nurturing them. They're like making sure they're fed and they're giving high nutritious food to them. And they're making sure they're sleeping and they're bathing them and all these wonderful nurturing things. And we don't do that for ourselves. You know, we skip out on all those things. We eat fast food and all those things. And I'm very much like you. Like I try to do natural things as much as possible. And if needs be, medicine was given to us for a reason, you know. I do, and therapy. I've been to therapy throughout my life, and I'll probably still continue to go to therapy throughout when I need an emotional tune-up. You know what I mean? Like occasionally you're going to need those. My faith has obviously helped me. I talked about that a lot. Journaling. I don't feel like it's a silver bullet. And I think that's sometimes what people, they try one thing and it doesn't work, or they don't try it long enough.
Yeah.
And then they get frustrated, you know? And I think it's by those small and simple things incrementally that can help people. But we're not used to that in our society. We want a quick fix, right? Whether it's a pill or whatever it might be. Or we want a big thing, you know, like it's got to be this big thing, but it doesn't. And it's like small choices over a period of time. And actually, it can actually occur really fast, the healing. Well, healing's a process, but meaning like if you even like take care of the foundational like exercise and start eating well, you will start feeling better like really fast, you know?
Well, Jordan Peterson, I don't know why I'm bringing up so much. Anyway, but he does have this thing of like, make your bed. No, it's not him. It was some army person.
It wasn't, but they both said it. And I know,
okay.
yeah.
But that's what I do. I make my bed every day. And we actually, with Sam, when he was first starting out on his mission and really struggling, it's like, make your bed.
Yes.
Just start there and you have a victory. You know what I mean?
My bed's made every day.
Yes.
But he does a lot. I won't even start with all that he does.
Right.
I don't just make the bed.
No, it's huge. It actually helps me. I come into the bed and I'm in like, what is this crap?
So messy.
He's been spoiled.
I am spoiled like the sorry anyway.
I'm spoiled.
You do spoil me. It's good.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm the same way. Yeah, I make my bed. Yeah, and I know it's a great start to the day. You know, I have like a routine. I get up, I exercise, I do some spiritual reading, I journal, and then, you know, set a outline of how I'd like the day to be. So things like that. Oh, I was going to bring this up about, you know, how it took you 5 years to find a therapist, you know, that you can connect with. So that is something also that I would say, like, it might take some effort to find the right person. Something that helped me is either I have friends who see a therapist, and if my friend has a like personality, I ask them like, oh, like, so do you like your therapist and why do you like them? You know? Yeah. And even like thinking, I think people might not really realize this, like thinking about why you want to go see a therapist. Because people, maybe there's just like, I feel bad and I want to feel better. And that's a great goal. I mean, that's a fantastic, to be happy is like a fantastic thing, right? For me, like another thing I thought of was I want to go to therapy because I want to learn the tools of how I can be like my own therapist. So when I bump up against life, that I can have the tools. I've got the tools like, okay, this is what I'm going through and this is how I feel. And these are the tools that I need to help me to feel better. So that's one of the things. And so, yeah, so it can take a little time to find the right therapist, but when you find one, it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm very much an advocate of therapy and finding someone who also their goals align with yours. You know, I think that's important as well. You know, you don't want,
I found it's kind of like finding a spouse. You got to find that magic ratio and don't stop until you find them. You know, like keep shopping until you find that person. Because I'd been to like 3 other therapists and it just wasn't doing it for me. And I was in like the deep, dark places and it was like, it was bad advice. So make sure you go until you find the right person that resonates with you. So, yeah.
And another thing that's similar to that is when we talk about medication and such. So I've seen medicine like help my friends tremendously, and they're total advocate of medicine and how it's helped them. I've also seen the flip side of that where the balance isn't right or the medication isn't right. And it has been absolutely terrifying. People are so desperate for relief, you know, but it might take a little time to find that right balance of medication and the right balance of therapy or, you know, the right person. Right. And with the medicine and everything, there's trained professionals and also, like feedback within your own community, you know, like if like on this medicine, like they notice something and it's really alarming or something, you know, like to not negate like what your loved ones, you know, the people who know you, you know, the things that they're saying. So anyways, yeah, it's not a magic silver bullet. It's like a holistic approach, right?
Well, and I think it's constantly evolving because as you change and as you heal, you need new tools.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And if you like, I think for me, one of the keys has been like, I may never be cured of this. And if I accept that and I'm just constantly looking for the best quality life that I can have with it, then my expectations are more reasonable.
Yes.
Than being like, I'm not better yet. I'm not done yet. You know, and because that can be really discouraging.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And that's something I think that Peter's grandma has helped me to see is like, like these expectations are kind of what's killing you. You know, you need like, and I don't want people to think like lower your expectations, but kind of like, let's be reasonable about what we can shoot for and make it achievable for us. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's been really helpful because then you're able to give yourself a break a lot more.
Yes.
Than the silver bullet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I'll speak for the guys.
Yes.
The guys do not want to go to therapy. They do not want to take medication, but some of them really need to. And, you know, there is a stigma. It's not a sign of weakness, and you don't have to tell everybody. Also, I mean, you just, if you're going through something and just find a therapist, find a doctor, and you don't have to tell everybody, but it's helpful when you do.
Yeah.
And you're able to open up and share that. I grew up, I started therapy when I was 14, I think was the first time I went. So, and I had tried medication when I was 15 or something like that. So it was normal for me, I think. So I kind of grew up with that, but a lot of people didn't. A lot of people believe that taking medication is a weakness or going to therapy is a sign of, weakness. But like we said before, everyone's messed up.
Well, and
everyone needs help in some way, shape, or form.
I think it's important to acknowledge the difference in the expectations and the stereotypes for our society too. For men,
Right.
it's a much more silent
Mhm.
suffering.
Yeah, it is.
And I think for the women, if to like how important it is for us to be compassionate towards that discrepancy in our society. I don't know if discrepancy is the right word, but like that inequality in, like, for women, it's I think it's more acceptable for us to be sad or to be, but for men, I think that they just feel the pressure to just deal with it or just keep it inside or whatever. And I don't think, I think that needs to change, because I think that men need to have that ability to acknowledge, I'm depressed and I need some help. And
it's when the pep talk from the coach doesn't get you going. Usually the pep talk's like, I got this. Yeah. When it doesn't get you going, something's a little off, because we're wired to, be
battle.
be in the battle, and to get out there and get things done and make it happen. And when that goes away, you're kind of like, what's happening? What's going on? If that's happening for guys, you may need to talk to someone. You may need a little help here and there, and that's fine. And it's not a sign of weakness. You're just trying to get that pep back into your life.
And for the women who do have men in their lives that are like being that compassionate, like, source, I think we have a lot of power to make that a lot harder or a lot easier for the men in our lives to get help or to be understood or to feel that space for them to be, weak or whatever you want to call it in that moment. And so, like, being aware of that, I think, is really important to make that space for them. And I just wanted to do that plug, because I'm all about making sure
it's really good.
Everybody
She's
has
been really good with me.
a place to feel safe to be that way.
Yeah, but you're really good at helping me.
Penny.
If I hit a dark spot, you're like, oh, okay. You're not like, get over it, bud.
No. Well, I'm also like, did you take your, or like, are you doing this stuff?
Like,
come on, we need you. We
like,
need you.
Bro, I saw you wake up at like 3 a.m. What are you doing? You eat crap. It's like, oh yeah, there's all these things like we talked about before.
Basics,
the little basic things. Sometimes tweaking those can really help.
Yeah.
Our stability in a lot of things. And so sometimes it's those little things, but sometimes it's, something's going on, something's off.
Well, Angela, I remember the moment when I had that realization of like, oh, my baby is hungry and they're crying. How am I any different? I need to eat, and like when my kids were young, like you just forget to eat because you're constantly worried about them. And Mike would come home and I was so cranky and I'm like, what is wrong? And he's like, did you eat? Did you eat anything?
Right. Right.
Like,
right.
So easy. And then you eat and it's like, there you are.
Right.
There's our happy girl.
Yeah, it's like, don't make any decisions. Most decisions are good after dinner.
And the advice to never go to bed angry at each other, worst advice ever. It's like, you're tired, you're exhausted, go to sleep. It'll look totally different in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
I always say sometimes the best part of your day is going to bed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, start over, restart, get things going. So
as you were saying that, like, we're all messed up, I think it's because life is hard. It can be hard. And it's, and actually it's because we're courageous. We chose to, we're here on earth, we're here and we're fighting the good fight. And because of that, we're going to get messed up. We're going to be traumatized, and I see, Hannie, you asked me, like, have you seen your life experiences help other people? So right now, I just have stewardship for my church assignment to help 14 and 15-year-old girls, right? And I'm just blown away. I just went to the first class at their level of maturity and their spiritual maturity. They're just light years ahead of me, right? But, they're talking about self-care. And I'm like, how do you even know what self-care is? And anyways, I think the future is hopeful. I think when I was that age, it's like a big dramatic story, right? My life story is kind of a big dramatic story at 15. So like, we got a lot of attention from high school, like the community, my church gathered around me. But nowadays, like we were kind of like in a weird way celebrities, you know, because of that. It was in the newspaper and everything like that, right? But these days, I see the children of, for example, my peers, and I cannot believe some of the things that they have to go through,
Yeah.
you know? And like, whereas I felt like I was, you know, like I said, like kind of a one off, I feel nowadays what kids go through is it's much more prevalent, like these things they go through, you know,
Yeah.
and like big dramatic things.
Let's say there's someone listening right now who has just gone through something catastrophic. What advice, direction, counsel would you give to them based on your experience in life?
First of all, to hang on. Like there's hope, even though it seems like there's no hope whatsoever. I mean, whatever this means to that person, that there is a higher power. And like I said, that could be different to different people. Maybe that's someone who loves you, you know, like maybe it's like family members who love you or a friend. I just think that as you hang on, things will get better, even though it seems so dark right now. Like Hannie said, like sometimes just the victory is holding on. It's just holding on, right? And that I was going to say, and that's all you can do. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot you can do, right?
I found that in most cases, you know, people who have been through things, this is true for marriage advice, life advice, the simplest is the most profound because it I mean, you know, it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's meaningful because it is simple things for when these catastrophe, because sometimes a catastrophe happens and it's like, but it's like, okay, let's focus on a couple just small things we might be able to do.
Yeah. So to preface a question that I have to follow up with that one. So I like not too long ago was having a pretty rough day, and I was in a place of worship, and this lady I didn't know her at all. And I'm like, I don't like people to approach me when I'm crying. It makes me really uncomfortable because I hate crying in public, you know?
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like it's just waterworks, you know what I mean? And this was one of those days. But this lady just came up to me and she's like, I don't know you, but I just want you to know that it's going to be okay. ... Eventually. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the eventually because it's like, I know this isn't going to be okay. Like right now, you know, this thing that's I've been going through for 20 years or whatever. But that she was real enough to know that eventually it was a big deal. But just like, and then she gave me just a quick hug and then she left. Didn't know her name or anything, but like, it was so meaningful to me in that moment, even though I didn't want to be approached, even just that there was a kindness that she noticed and that she came forward. Going through what you've been through and giving advice to the people who want to be helpful to the people that are going through those hard things. What were some of the most meaningful things that helped you through that people around you were able to do? Do you know what I mean? So like, how could they help?
Yeah. I think a really big thing for me is when people validated what I was feeling. And that's really hard for people to do because they see you in pain. And so like, you know, like an instant reaction, like for example, if someone's crying is don't cry. Like, it's okay, you know? And that's a really beautiful thing. They want to like help that person, but crying is not bad. It's a grieving process. And you're like that, your body was designed to cry, you know, and to relieve that intense feeling that you're having. And so I think validating rather than trying to stop those feelings was very, very helpful because I mean, people use these terminologies or this terminology all the time, however you say it, like, because when people validate me, it's like, yes, that's what I'm feeling. Yes, that's what I'm going through. Thank you. Because then I feel seen and heard as a person, right?
Or even just, yes, this is hard.
Yes.
You know
yes.
what I mean?
Or
Like,
even acknowledging that it's hard instead of like trying to fix it. Just like acknowledging like it is hard or it is this or it is that. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, the one thing that's hard to do is when someone's angry and validating the anger, because I think a lot of times we want to like shove our anger away.
Yeah.
But it's an emotion we feel. It's a real thing. And I think it's important to feel it, recognize it so you know what to do.
Well, and I think one of the ways to get past the anger is recognizing that the root of anger is sadness. It's the grief. And that's part of life. You can't have the joy without the grief. But when you recognize that you're angry because you're so sad, you're like, oh, okay, this is not unrighteous. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
because anger a lot of times is
right.
equated. So
Right.
yeah, but recognizing the root of it is like, my heart is broken.
Uh-huh.
And I'm dealing with it through anger,
Right,
you know, rather
right.
than let's go to the root of the problem and let's fix that, or grieve that, or do what we need to do to process that
Yeah.
broken heart.
And I think anger, well, one of the things I was going to say is, anger is more society thinks it's okay for guys to be angry, right? Like that's like your one emotion you're allowed to feel, right? But for women, it's unacceptable, right? So there's that. Anger is also so powerful. I mean, there's so much like motivation and energy behind that. Like you can really use that for good, right? So that motivate. I mean, like I feel in this world, like probably so much good has come, like when like people who were good people, had righteous motives, use that anger and use that power and force for something like very positive. We can be the slave to anger, or we can be the master. I mean, if we're the master, we can use that tremendous amount of energy and use it for good, like advocating for children's rights or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah. It's when I think anger turns into like vindictiveness and
yes, bitterness
and hate. And that's when it kind of becomes like, whoa, maybe we can step back from that a little bit.
Although like, I understand that.
Yeah.
I do understand it. Yeah. I understand how and like, I think maybe life pushes you that way so that maybe everyone gets to that point where they feel that. And like, you have to decide what you want to do with that,
Well, I mean, like you have to, that's part of life's experience is feeling all the emotions. And I think that's the key is like choosing, what am I going to do with it now?
Yeah.
And that's determines who you are. And like your core is like, am I going to do good, or am I going to let this consume me?
And I just want to say, like people hear my story and they're like, oh, you've done so great. And so it's very nice. It's very nice. But I just want you to know that like I said, I stayed in it for a very long time, so I'm 51 right now. I'm okay admitting my age, but yeah, for a few decades, I was in that space, so like, I know it takes time. Of course, looking back on it all, I'm like, man, I did not have to stay in that space for that long. But now I have the tools, you know what I'm saying? But the other thing is, so this podcast is stories told through you. Is that right? Okay. And like Michael and Hannie were telling me about, they feel like everyone has a story. And I totally believe that. Because even though people have told me, oh, like your story is so unique and it's so interesting. And I understand why they're saying that. It's kind of a dramatic story. Because I've gone through these experiences, I think it's just shaped me into who I am. Maybe you guys have experienced this too. Like people have told me like the craziest stories, and like the most interesting things about their lives. And if you're just willing to like sit and listen and, not judge. And people have always said that like, oh, you're not judgmental. I'm like, oh, I'm plenty judgmental. But I think over the years, I've really like hopefully improved as a person. But yeah, just everyone does have a story. And so I think it's fun that you're opening this up to the community because it's not about the famous people. It's about the everyday person, and everybody has an interesting story.
Stories are I think it's how we process life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's a story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every part of our life is a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always a good story,
right?
But it's a story. And I think most of the time it's pretty interesting because that's how we understand each other. It's how we understand ourselves, this life. And so hopefully people have, when they listen to the podcast or they read the flower letters, they're able to learn a little bit about themselves, a little bit about the past, and a little bit about how the world works around them.
Well,
so
I also think that one of my motivations behind this podcast is like, I think it's so important to remember that everybody is carrying that, like their harrowing story. They're all, we all have something that we're dealing with. We all have something that, and I think it's just a great reminder to be like so much kinder than we often are, is like everybody's carrying something significant. And also like everybody is the heroine or hero of their life, and like treat each other that way, treat each other like, we are the heroes and the heroines of our lives, and find that like greatness within everyone around you. Oops. And just like make that the core of how you treat other people is like they're all carrying that burden, but they're also this amazing person and so it's so easy to forget that. It's so easy to forget that we all have so much more in common than we don't, and that we all have greatness in us. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
It does. It does.
That sounded really good to
I was
me.
trying to do it in a universal sort of a way.
And that greatness comes from like, well, we get messed up in life, right? We get beat up in life, and we are heroes and we are the heroines.
And every story has the dark night of the soul moment, where it's like there's no hope. What's going to happen? How is this going to work out? But that's what makes the hero or the heroine.
Right. Otherwise the story's boring. Like, who cares? Right.
No climax.
Right. And we'll probably go through a lot of those throughout life.
It's good. Well, Angela, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, with our listeners, and thank you for being with us at the Flower Letters. We're so grateful that you're with us.
Oh, well, thank you.
So
I love working
we
here.
look forward to many more years working together.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you for being brave enough to share your story. I know that sometimes you can feel really vulnerable sharing, especially, stories like that are so, close to our hearts and have been so difficult. But I think that when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, I think that is the power of our stories, is people really connect and resonate with that vulnerability, because we all feel that way at some time. And it all, I think, helps us all be a little bit braver,
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Stories Told Through You, the Flower Letters podcast.
Got a true story you'd like to share? Email us at podcast@theflowerletters.com.
If you're new here, welcome. To learn more about us, head over to theflowerletters.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and help us spread these inspiring true stories. Until next time.